Hi, everyone. My name is Anurag. I'm a customer success manager here at Tenjin. Tenjin is a secret sauce for small developers and publishing studios who compete against the giants in the industry. Today, we'll be discussing the success story of HyperBeard and how Tenjin is helping them with multiple use cases. To discuss this, I have with me the CEO and co-founder of HyperBeard, Alex. Alex, would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Alex Kuzichenko. I'm the CEO of HyperBeard, as Anurag just said. We're the largest mobile game developer and publisher in Mexico with over 210 million downloads on Apple App Store and Google Play Store. Some of our great titles include Campfire Cat Cafe, which just launched in May, Adorable Home, and Pocket Love. We specialize in cute casual idle games, targeting a young adult female demographic. Personally, I specialize in business, product, and marketing strategy. But as you know, since I run the company, do a little bit of everything. And yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Sweet. So could you tell us a little more about HyperBeard, how you guys started, what kind of games and how many installs you have?
Sure, of course. So we started in around 2016. It was technically as part of another company. Our first big game was a game called Kleptocats, kind of went viral. And that was kind of our introduction to both a successful game, but also one that we self-published. So that taught us a lot, but we didn't really start off saying we were going to make cute casual games for a female audience. It just kind of snowballed into that, as we got good within the space and at targeting that particular audience. We kind of just slowly kind of moved in that direction. In 2018, we started publishing as well, and that brought developers with kind of cute casual titles over to us. And so it all just kind of created this like perfect storm of a business model, which we're currently using today. So all in, we've published 30 titles in the last 6 years, or more than 30 titles. Almost all of them have been cute or cute adjacent. Our biggest game, Adorable Home, I mentioned earlier, has over 52 million downloads. Our second biggest game, Pocket Love, which we released last year, has over 25 million downloads in the first year. We're about 65 people globally, mostly in Mexico. Like I said, that's kind of where we're known for. We also have people scattered in South America, Europe, and in East Asia as well.
That's great. So just to understand, because you guys have so many different titles, I'm curious to understand what sort of growth stack you guys have in terms of what marketing analytics or product analytics tools that you guys use.
Sure. So we've used a bunch of things over the past. Historically, we like to keep things fairly simple. We don't like to get too complicated. We used to use Google Analytics. As most people know, they just recently changed their pricing. So now we switched over to Firebase Google Analytics. On that front, we're not doing a ton. It's mostly just looking at retention, day 1, day 7, day 30, engage sessions per user, and then setting up funnels, big on obviously pushing people in to get into the game to get strong day 1 retention. And the precursor to that is obviously the onboarding experience. As our MMP, we use Tenjin, obviously. They're our primary one. We also use Singular here and there in our portfolio. And then we also use ironSource Level Play as our ad mediator. At various times in the past, we've kind of built pieces of an internal BI, but to be honest, it's not really our strength. Kind of deep engineering is not really something that's kind of core to HyperBeard. We're much more about content, single player experiences and whatnot. And so one nice thing about Tenjin is that they've been able to supplement our internal efforts, and our BI is now basically the Growthfullstack product that they offer.
Awesome. So speaking of Tenjin and Growth FullStack, are there any specific functionalities or features that have been most valuable to you guys?
Yeah, so we love using Dataworld. So historically, we were just using kind of what is on the dashboard with whatever MMP we're using, but obviously that's a pretty limited thing. And the dashboard for Tenjin is great, it provides a lot of insights, but obviously you always want to expand beyond that. So Dataworld allows us to do that. It's great for creative performance tracking. And also one thing that we do is portfolio LTV analysis. So we're what's known as a boutique publisher. There used to be kind of a lot of these. Now there aren't so many because mostly publishers these days just look for really high LTV titles that they can get lower CPIs on and they can just buy at scale, right? Well, for us, by staying within the same kind of themes, we've been able to drive a ton of organics year over year. And so we're still what's known as a boutique publisher. We specialize in a particular type of game for a particular type of audience. And because of that, we have a lot of users moving between our games. And we've really struggled to measure the financial impact of that. We know it happens, but in terms of like what percentage or what's the value, like we just really had no clue. So thanks to Tenjin, we're now garnering insights that we can extrapolate the entire user base and factor into our UA strategies, which allows us to afford higher CPIs and to grow at scale.
Awesome. I also know that you guys use the aggregation-based LTV on Tenjin, which is sort of like a unique metric that we have and a solution that we have. So I wanted to understand how do you think this is different from the solutions that are given by others in the industry and how it's better for you guys?
Yeah, so we use it. It was very interesting when we were switching over from another MMP. Obviously, user level tracking is kind of what people tend to think of as the gold standard. But the problem with user level tracking is the entire ecosystem is moving more towards a privacy centric regulatory environment, right? And you get less and less data, and then the users that you're actually getting data on aren't necessarily representative of the entire populace, right? And so you have these holes in your data. You're not really sure, all right, is it measuring accurately what it is measuring? What are the holes? How much is missing? There's no real source of truth to kind of tie it back to, because those are the aggregate numbers you see, right? The amounts you actually get paid on a daily basis, the number of users that you see that are actually downloading the game. These are your true sources of truth. And so for us, it was really frustrating because not only, are we dealing with users who are not giving their IDFA, which, obviously is a large percentage of users on the iOS, and then you kind of lose tracking on them from a user level perspective. But also, all of our games are mixed audience. So like they're perfectly safe to play for a children audience, which we define as 15 and under. And we have an age gate in front of all of our games. But again, the problem is once they do that, you have no tracking on them at all, right? They are not legally able to provide anything, any personally identifiable information without verifiable parental consent. And that's a whole separate thing, right? So with the aggregation-based LTV, we can kind of extrapolate what the revenue is across all users and then kind of tie it back to a real source of truth. So we have a lot more confidence in the data itself.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, I personally also think that the privacy changes have, made a lot of developers sort of adopt the aggregation-based LTV method as well. So since you guys have been using this for a while now, I wanted to understand in terms of the KPIs that you guys monitor, how it has changed since you started using Tenjin and Growthfullstack. If you can share some more details on it.
Yeah, so one thing that Tenjin has allowed us to do is one of the things we had originally planned, which we haven't really rolled out fully yet, is we want to expand into other geos. We know that there's demand for our games in a bunch of geos that are relatively low LTV. Brazil is a big geo for us, for example, generally South America, generally Southeast Asia, ton of users from Vietnam and Philippines. Those are areas that we do want to eventually target with paid growth, but historically it's been very difficult because the pricing models that a lot of other MMPs offer are based on your downloads, right? So you're not going to spend 3 cents a download for someone in Vietnam when their LTV is probably around 3 cents, right? It doesn't make any sense. So that's one thing we're looking forward to. Tenjin we haven't rolled out yet. But what we have been able to do is we have been able to increase our ad spend approximately 300% over the last quarter, which has been awesome. It's usually mostly in our games Pocket Love, Adorable Home, and to some degree Campfire Cat Cafe. And we've also been able to see our ROAS pick up 15 to 20%, which is obviously why we're able to then increase our ad spend.
Awesome. So I wanted to now talk about Dataworld. I know you mentioned about using Dataworld and you guys love using Dataworld. If you can explain a little more in detail how you guys have been using Dataworld.
Sure. So we use Data Vault to pull all of the information into Growthfullstack so we can analyze it and then look at our LTV across all of our apps, both Android and iOS, and then also aggregate between the two, and also at a campaign level as well. So what that allows us to do is understand where are users coming into our portfolio as a whole, right? Are they coming in a Pocket Love and then they're going to Adorable Home and then they're going somewhere else? Or are they coming into, one of our smaller games, right? Some of the games that we have that we really don't prioritize, but they can be a channel that allows, them to move around the portfolio. And that gives us a ton of insights into where we should be spending our UA efforts. It gives us a ton of insights into how much we can spend on users in every geo. And it's just super, super helpful. So that's what we're really focused on with Dataworld, just this kind of portfolio LTV UA approach. It is something that we're still kind of rolling out. We just switched over to Tenjin this year, so we only have so much data. But obviously, if we're looking at retention across the portfolio as opposed to retention within one particular game, we can start to go from, most of our games are 30% day 30% retention, around 5%, which is not great, right? But that's pretty average for the space, to be perfectly honest. But if we're looking at, day 90 retention across the portfolio, that number can be closer to 5% or 10% or whatever the case is, something we're still trying to find out. And if that's the case, then obviously we can scale a lot more because we just can track users across as they go.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool to see that you've been using Dataworld for a lot of these custom analysis beyond what the dashboard is able to give you. In tandem with Dataworld, you're also using Growthfullstack, which is our solution for building data pipelines and custom dashboards. So how does Growthfullstack come into this with Dataworld and Tenjin?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, we don't really have a ton of data engineers in-house that know how to use Tableau or whatever the case, whatever the tool is. So Growthfullstack has been able to allow us to visualize everything, sort through tables, pull in the data that we need, and then kind of hone in on the specific areas that we want to analyze at the time, right? So for now, that means mostly the US, mostly tier 1 English countries. Eventually, we want to look at where is the opportunity for UA the greatest, right? As a percentage basis, right? Because it may not be in the US. That is our primary market. That's where we get a lot of revenue, but also that's just because, the US has a lot of spending power, and also there's a lot of people in the US, right? But we may find that actually in Malaysia, we have a portfolio LTV bump of, 200% ROAS, and that's where we should really be spending a lot of time and effort, because even though the users on a per capita basis aren't as valuable, they are extremely more profitable. And so those are the kind of insights we're looking for, and Growthfullstack is able to help us kind of visualize all that.
Got it. So I think you have a lot of different use cases right now that we are working with you for Growthfullstack. And I believe the LTV portfolio use case, which is also known as the CrossPromo LTV use case, is probably the more priority one, or the one that you've been working on extensively. So if you can explain or talk a little more about how you've been able to solve this for you, the LTV portfolio use case, if you can share some more numbers on it.
Yeah, so the nice thing has been that Tenjin has been able to kind of jump in and do custom dev work to pull in all the data that goes into Dataworld and to pull it into Growthfullstack for us to help us visualize it. Because like I said, those aren't resources that we historically have in-house. We work with various people in the past, but it's hard to piece all that together, right? So to have it in one place, to have a company that is well-versed in the tool and that can help visualize it is super important. To provide some specific numbers, for example, right now we only have about 90 days of basically the portfolio analysis, right? So right now we're just starting to look at 90-day LTV across the portfolio. But what we're seeing in some games is that, for example, in Adorable Home, we're seeing about a 35% uplift. So what does that mean? Well, that means if we are buying a user into Adorable Home, to break even, they don't need to hit 100% ROAS. They actually need to hit 35% less than that, right? Because they're going to make up that 35% across the portfolio as they move. So then that allows us to scale, right? So instead of buying users at, $1, we can buy them at $1.30, which unlocks a whole nother level. And, that using US as an example there. But we see that across really all of our games. So we don't need to be releasing games that are multi tens of $1 million hits. We can release games that just kind of additively add. And as long as they are bringing in new users, which all of our games have done in the past, then they are adding to that overall portfolio value.
Awesome. This is super insightful in terms of how you guys have been using Tenjin and Growthfullstack. One last question I had was if you can give any advice or recommendation to other companies or teams who might be considering using Growthfullstack and Tenjin, and how should they go about it?
Yeah, so I would definitely say that you want to have a clear idea of the challenges that you're trying to overcome with full stack before you kind of jump in, right? Because you can build anything. Like the data it's not endless, but it's effectively you can do a lot with the data. I like to approach it from iterative manner. So to kind of do a week or bi-weekly analysis of what we have and then what new questions pop up, and does it make sense to then build that in, right? And again, the nice thing about Tenjin is they'll work with you and help you build it as part of the enterprise tool that they offer, enterprise package that they offer. And so that's been super helpful for us. It's really accelerated our ability to get this information and to start utilizing it. But yeah, you definitely want to think before you move. But also, it doesn't have to be perfect, right? It's not going to be perfect to start. You're going to be iterating over time, just like you do with every mobile game and every mobile product. That's totally okay. Get the insights, ask for more information, and keep pushing.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, we always love to work with studios and developers who are looking to grow, and we iterate with them together. So definitely something that a lot of other publishers will learn from. Thanks so much, Alex, for your time. This was super insightful, super helpful. If you guys want to learn more about Tenjin or Growth Full Stack, you can look at the links in the description. And if you want to learn more about HyperBeard, you can always email Alex or you can email Tenjin at support@tenjin.com. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.